one company's fall from grace. It is, at its base, the story of a wrenching period of economic and political tumult as revealed through a single corporate scandal. It is a portrait of an America in upheaval at the turn of the 21st century, a country torn between its worship of fast money and its zeal for truth, between greed and high-mindedness, between Wall Street and Main Street. Ultimately, it is the story of the untold damage wreaked by a nation's folly, a folly that, in time, we are all but certain to see again. Book 1. The Wine of Aspiration. Chapter 1. It could be argued that the creation of Enron was set in motion on April 21st, 1985, when a 13-year-old Texas boy decided to phone Zurich. Earlier that day, the teenager, Bo Harold, had taken a message for his stepfather from Sam Segnar, chief executive of Internorth, an Omaha energy company. Bo told the caller that his stepfather, Ken Lay, who 10 months earlier at the age of 42 had been named CEO of Houston Natural Gas, was traveling with his mother, Linda. As instructed, he refused to say where Lay was or how to reach him. Still, Bo chewed over the call. It somehow seemed urgent enough that he decided to let his stepfather know about it right away. He checked his parents' itinerary and saw that they would be arriving at the Dolder Grand Hotel in Zurich. Bo called and left a message for Lay with the front desk. That evening at 11, the Lays arrived at the hotel from the latest meeting with European investors. At the front desk, Lay picked up Bo's message and, after checking in, called the boy. Lay knew Segnar's name and certainly knew his company, Internorth, a rival, but he had no idea why the man was calling. Taking a seat at a small desk in the one-bedroom suite, he dialed Segnar at home. Segnar answered, and the two men spent a moment exchanging pleasantries. Then Segnar sprang the question. "Ken," Segnar said, "would you have any interest in putting our two companies together?" The idea struck Lay out of the blue. He barely knew what to say. "Well, Sam," Lay finally replied, "truthfully, I've never really thought about it before." There were plenty of reasons to do it, Segnar said. Both companies were pursuing a strategy based on the idea that fully deregulated markets were coming in the gas industry. Both understood that the biggest pipeline systems would be the winners. Both had been snapping up smaller pipelines and were often competing bidders. Fighting over scraps made no sense when they both could achieve their shared goal through a single merger with each other. Intrigued, Lay asked some questions and said he would get his best people working on the idea. For the next few days he traveled through Europe with almost no sleep. During the day he met investors. All night he held strategy sessions by phone with his team. HNG wanted $70 a share. Internorth haggled for $65. Segnar caved on everything, including a commitment that Lay could take over in a matter of years. The $70 a share deal was announced on May 2nd, just 11 days after the phone call to Zurich. There was little time for celebration. Lay had acquired new problems, as he discovered at a September reception in Houston. He hosted the get-together for the Internorth crowd, giving them a chance to meet the city's big oil men. But instead, the directors trooped off to another room to verbally beat up Sam Segnar. They had grown angry about the HNG deal, which they thought had put the company too deeply in debt. Worse, they had heard rumors that Lay and Segnar had secretly agreed to move the headquarters from Omaha to Houston. Segnar denied there was any such deal, but the directors wanted to hear it from Lay that night. As the last of the guests filed out of the reception, Lay headed over to meet the angry directors. He was not in a mood to play nice. A lot of effort had gone into organizing the reception, and the directors had basically insulted everyone in Houston's energy industry. But before he could speak, the directors started in, making it clear that there was more at stake than some bruised feelings. Apparently, the directors distrusted Segnar, their own CEO. Lay assured them that no secret deal existed, yet at the same time pushed the idea of moving the headquarters to Houston. The directors decided to hire a consultant to analyze the option. They turned to John Sawhill, a former Nixon administration official, now with McKinsey & Company, the management consulting firm, who had done work for Internorth in the past. It was a decision that would bring to the company the man who ultimately redefined its future. "What, are you kidding me? No way." Jeff Skilling almost laughed. His boss, John Sawhill, had just phoned to tell him about the HNG Internorth headquarters study. Skilling, at 31, already a rising star in McKinsey's Houston office, was incredulous. "Jeff, it's an important assignment," Sawhill said. "It's something the company really wants." Skilling could only shake his head. He knew about the battles at HNG Internorth in the Houston versus Omaha debate. Whatever the answer, somebody at the company would be furious, and almost certainly blame the consultants. "How do you win this one, John? How do you decide this? I want nothing to do with it." Sawhill implored his underling to reconsider, but Skilling was adamant. Finally, the two agreed to turn the job over to McKinsey's Washington office, effectively shielding Houston from the company's inevitable wrath. By 1985, Skilling had been working with John Sawhill on Internorth for more than 3 years, long enough to understand the company's internal politics and steer clear of the headquarters debate. After fobbing the assignment off on Washington, Skilling thought little about it again until a draft copy of the analysis landed on his desk. He picked it up and flipped through the pages. What the hell? He couldn't believe what he was reading. The thing was junk. More like a travelogue than a real report. Which city had more professional sports teams? Which had more non-stop flights? What businessman would relocate his business solely on the basis of such trivia? Skilling snapped up a pen and started writing. He wasn't about to turn over such a shoddy piece of work to a client, suicide mission or not. If the Washington office couldn't handle the assignment, then he'd do it himself. Skilling and Sawhill walked past the front desk at the Omaha Marriott on their way to the first-floor meeting rooms. It was November 12th, 1985, the day of their formal report to the HNG Internorth board. The two men arrived at 10 o'clock at the door of the Columbus room, where the board was meeting. An aide told them to wait. They wandered over to chairs outside the door and sat. Minutes passed, followed by hours. Then fireworks. Directors started yelling at one another. Skilling and Sawhill glanced at each other. Neither could quite make out the words. Finally, sometime after 1 o'clock, the door opened. Sam Segnar emerged, his eyes red-rimmed. Sawhill and Skilling stood. "Listen," Segnar said. "I just want you to know I've been replaced as the chief executive of the company." Sawhill and Skilling were too stunned to speak. "It's been nice knowing you," Segnar said. He headed down the hallway, tears in his eyes. The two consultants just stood there. All this over the headquarters? This assignment might be more lethal than even Skilling had thought. The door opened again. The board was ready for them. Most of the directors were looking sheepish. On one side, Ken Lay, a man Skilling had met in passing only a few weeks before, was wide-eyed and a little pale. Sawhill and Skilling found their seats, and the situation was laid out for them. Segnar was gone. Ken Lay was now president and chief executive. Bill Strauss, Internorth's 63-year-old former chairman, had returned to his old job and would be running the meeting. "All right," Strauss said. "Now we want to hear your advice on the corporate headquarters location." Sawhill stood, straightening his coat. "Thank you," he said. He spoke for a few minutes, then gestured toward his colleague. "Let me introduce Jeff Skilling, who's handling this presentation." "Oh, thanks, John." Skilling launched into the report. The conclusions were simple. HNG Internorth's business was in Houston. Its key pipeline there had numerous problems, and its contracts required renegotiation. Management needed to be there to oversee the work. "Now," Skilling said, "the worst possible outcome would be to maintain dual headquarters. So you need to decide, Houston or Omaha, and we would recommend Houston." A pause. Charles Harper, the chairman and chief executive of ConAgra, an Omaha-based food company, gestured that he wished to speak. Strauss recognized him. This